Hey, it's Tracy with Let's Go Recovery. I'm back tonight, and as you know, our organization ignites passion and enthusiasm for recovery through the conduit of human connection. And tonight, I'm making one of those connections. Meet my new friend, Blu Robinson. He's in from Utah. We're here to support our friend Brock Bevel at a Night to Prevail right here in Mesa. He's got an organization that's impacting and changing lives in the state of Utah, but you came in for this special event. Tell me a little bit about your organization.
Thanks, brother. It's great to be here. It's beautiful Arizona. Addict to Athlete formed in 2011 as another spot to get help for recovery and addiction issues, mental health. And we utilize a thing called the erase and replace philosophy, which means if you're going to erase your addiction, you have to replace it with something of greater value. We've chosen health and recreation to kind of reestablish that team feel approach to where, if you can conquer a 5K, a 10K, half marathon, then you could also let go of all the stuff that drug you down.
Wow, that's powerful, because what you're saying is that I don't have to necessarily change everything about my life. I just take one step into the version I want to be. Like, I want to run a marathon. I have a buddy that ran a marathon, and he said, you run a quarter mile. That's how you run a marathon. Get up and go to the mailbox. You got to start there. Something as simple as that. As you're talking about changing addict behavior, and you're talking about turning into an athlete, running, whatever it is, what are some of the other tools or places in people's lives where they can use behavior like this?
I love that question. Specifically, we believe that movement equals healing. So it doesn't matter if you're training for a run or even if you're going out for a hike or a walk around your block. Any kind of movement is going to help increase all those endorphins. You're going to decrease things like depression. It's going to help you with some coping mechanisms and some skill sets. And when you do that with a team, you've got support behind you, like a world-class, athletic professional team. You got people cheering for you. You got your teammates. It's a really kind of one-stop, conducive, goal-oriented mindset that helps get them across every finish line that they want to start.
You hit on something big that I'm a big the power of people.
Yeah.
Human connection. Like, I can't do anything alone. Nothing gets built by one person, right?
Exactly.
That language is powerful because we know that it takes a tribe. And we were talking a little bit before we got started. We said things like, someday you're going to need somebody to carry you. Like, I don't want to do this behavior. And that sometime when I wanted to, there was a guy that said, bro, let's not do that. Let's go for a hike. Let's go for a walk. Let's go do yoga. And those got me through those moments. We replaced those behaviors. You're talking about replacing, let's say, addict behavior with something else. Talk to me about some of the healing journey that you had when you did that. What did that feel like?
It was beautiful. My own recovery was based off this principle. I had all this money because I wasn't, spending it on substances anymore. Well, I didn't have any of the friends because I had to close those doors on them. My friends became Monica and Chandler and Ross and Phoebe from Friends, right?
That's awesome.
And so what happened is I bought a mountain bike and I had all this money and I thought, well, let's get on this, this thing and see what happens. And I pedaled my way up to the foothills in Utah. And I met two other bikers that kind of took me under their wing just to get me off the mountain because I didn't know what I was doing. And that invitation for them to say, you've got a mountain bike, you're a mountain biker. They didn't ask me if I was an addict. They had no idea. I followed them down. I watched what they were doing, kind of knew when to pedal when they pedaled. And I got to the bottom and they said, next time you want to come out, get a helmet, maybe get some water bottles, right?
Right.
And I thought, that's the best thing. I'm no longer an addict. Now I'm a mountain biker. That's kind of when Addict to Athlete started in my head, moving from one to another.
That's super powerful. And the idea of who I used to be doesn't define who I'm going to be. And it actually shows the progress. It shows like a transformation, but we keep transforming.
Absolutely.
So you're no longer an addict, you're an athlete, but then you get to improve on that. And you say things like run a 5K, a half marathon, a full marathon, but you also get to progress in other avenues of your life. People can take that behavior to work.
Well, they have to. If you think about it, right? When you use an I am statement, it's your absolute truth. There's no two more powerful words than I am. So if you follow that with I am an addict, that's all you're going to be, that negative connotation. But what if I said, well, I am an athlete, I am a father, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a scholar, all these things, all these attributes we get to build upon that one addict. It's still in there, but all these other things now reign supreme over it.
The behavior's changed because you've given it a reason to change.
100%.
Those opportunities to be a different person are because you created opportunities.
Yeah.
Like when I say, hey, I didn't drink and didn't used to, that's great. That's good. Like someday that was it. But then what did you do tomorrow? What are you doing today to improve tomorrow? And then it's like, oh, well, now I've added this behavior, or I've added this skill, right? Because you're talking about skills too, because
Absolutely.
Your people are learning from what I read on your website, they're learning how to do something else with their lives. Not just like, oh, I ran a 5K. again, that same thing. I'd say congratulations. Now, when you run in the next event, or what mountain are you trying to climb today, and that sort of stuff. Where else in their lives, other than let's say skills, fitness, are relational? Is this a relational thing?
100%. That is kind of the core of the whole team. Anytime you have a team, you've got to have relationships with each other, and you got to have commitments. You got to take on a certain sense of responsibility. So if one of our teammates is signing up for a 10K, we know it starts at Saturday at 6 o'clock in the morning. I know what they're doing Friday night. They're getting ready. And if that teammate doesn't show up because their alarm didn't go off right, or maybe they've gotten to a relapse, the whole team knows that they should have been here. So the relationships and this accountability factor are huge. But beyond that, even in a family system, we have a lot of family systems that come into the team. So we have the minor league, which is the 18-year and younger kids. These are typically the kids of people that are struggling with addiction. So now a family starts to recreate and heal together. And beyond just the health and recreation, we do a ton of service, from communities, resources, all the way through, like just a couple months ago with our Project ELF, helping people with low income provide Christmas to them. So we're more than just an athletic group. We're a service-oriented group, but it's all based off of that foundation of relationships.
People helping people. I love it. Tell me about, your guys are growing. You just told me you're opening up a new chapter. I love that. You guys are a nonprofit, obviously, and you need funding. So what can we do to support you? What can my listeners and people that might be tuning in today, what can they do to support you? How can they help?
The best thing you can do is jump on our website, addict2athlete.org. We have all of our scheduled calendar items on there, from events all the way down to specific podcasts, information on anything based off Team Addict to Athlete. But more importantly, we have our certified sober coach training available on there, to where you could become a certified coach of Team Addict to Athlete under our 501c3 and open your own chapter, because I don't think the troops are coming. We have to be the troops, and so we need more people that are willing to help other people hit that starting line, to have them feel what it feels like to finish.
Wow, that's a super powerful thing, because when you finish with a teammate, there's like a bond. I tell people, you gotta understand, and I'm talking about any behavior, anything we do. When I got you there, it's almost like I don't want to go to the Super Bowl alone.
Exactly.
Right? It's the feeling that I get, but I want you to be there with me. So when we walk out of that water after a 4-minute cold plunge, and you talk me through it, I was there, I was your teammate. Something's different about that. Like, we're there together. I think loneliness is where we know addiction lies. That idea of shame and guilt. Your type of mental preparation strips that away, if I'm hearing you right?
Yeah.
That idea that, hey, I don't have to not only do those behaviors, I don't have to think like that about myself.
100%.
Tell me some of those stories, maybe something you've seen in that.
The most beautiful part about that is when any of the athletes line up for a race or an event or anything that we do as a team, we collectively wear our athletic jerseys that proudly display Addict to Athlete on our chest, which means everyone can see that we've had a past. And so that anonymity is no longer a factor, because when someone's running next to somebody else, say, hey, tell me about your shirt. The person who asked the question is like, well, because my brother struggles, or my mother struggles, or I've had an addiction. So they become walking embassies of recovery, which then breeds into this, I got to help some stranger today, which kind of overflows their senses with like service and like-mindedness. And we start realizing that really having addiction isn't the end-all be-all. It's actually a superpower because of what they're doing to overcome it, and that everyone has an amazing story. So we say, you've got to turn your mess into your message and share it.
Wow. The idea of sharing that, where I came from, who isn't who I have to be, but also that I'm impacting another human's life because of my worst behavior, my absolute worst day. And in fact, our conversation right now, if you're not an addict and I don't have addict and alcoholism as part of my story, we're not having this conversation right now. You probably don't know Brock. I don't know.
Exactly.
Like those things, the beautiful night we're going to have, every moment came from our very worst days.
Absolutely.
We had this in our past. You no longer have to live in shame, guilt, fear, all of the things that were driving forces. Anything else you want to say to our listeners, anybody that may be tuning in, anything message you want to get across before we sign off and head into this awesome concert?
Yeah, 100%. I would tell everyone out there listening that in any race you do, if for some reason some trouble happens during the event and you can't finish, at the end of the race, you get this little timestamp that says DNF at the end. It stands for did not finish. But I would appreciate those more than getting a DNS, which means did not start. So as long as you're in your mindset that you're going to start the journey, and who knows what could happen when you're on the trail, right? As long as you're willing to start, let it happen, turn your mess into your message, and let your team support you to that finish line.
That's super powerful. Guys, thanks for tuning in. It's a great message. It's addictathlete.org. Check that out. But also, I want to tell you one thing. If you're taking a step towards the version of the person you want to be today, we're proud of you. I'm proud of you. And don't forget, let's go.